So at this stage, the investigation hasn't even come in any kind of a format that we can review. I trust that the Tulsa County DA's office, all the law enforcement agencies, including the federal prosecutor's office, will in tandem and in a collaborative nature look at the evidence, and we will make final decisions.
Can you clarify that? How will it affect any charging decision you make?
It doesn't affect anything, okay? Right now, I need to concentrate on the murders and the shooting with intent to kill. Certainly, we will look at all the facts and the evidence and make the kind of decision that the facts bear out. It's preliminary to determine what the motivation was behind this. If the evidence supports that and we believe that we can prove those elements of a hate crime, that will certainly be considered at the appropriate time.
Do you have a sense at this point, the charges are the same for both, do you have any sense as to who might have been the primary shooter, or were both shooters in this instance? Do you know?
I can't even respond to that. Once the investigation comes to us, we'll review that. But I will say this, the evidence will be meted out in a court of law under due process. I don't intend on trying this case in the media. It'll be tried in the court before a judge. So as far as commenting on the evidence, you're going to be disappointed. You're probably not going to hear a lot about that. That will come forth when the state of Oklahoma presents the evidence in the proper legal forum so that due process is meted out. The Constitution says these individuals are presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt by sufficient evidence. All those constitutional protections and due process will be meted out for these individuals and every other person that gets charged in Tulsa County under my supervision and watch as Tulsa County DA.
Can you clarify that bond amount? Because I think
$3,160,000.
Didn't you say it was nearly $10 million? He said it was $3 million per count.
Oh, you're right. You're right. $10,160,000. You're exactly right. So $3 million each on each of the murder counts, $75,000 on the shooting with intent to kill, and $10,000 on the possession of a firearm and the commission of a felony.
But Tim, police call this unprecedented for them to work a case like this. How about for your office? Would you call this unprecedented for your office?
Hey, anytime 3 people are killed in a short period of time and you believe there is one or a finite number of suspects, that is definitely unprecedented, no doubt.
Are you happy with the bail amount?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the court would have to give some kind of a decision as to why no bond is appropriate, okay? That may be argued sometime in the future, even by the state of Oklahoma, that we don't believe it's sufficient, but at least at this period in time, $10,160,000 seems sufficient to make sure that these people are not going to get out of the jail, and it will give us sufficient time to look at the evidence and make a formal charging decision at the appropriate time.
Everybody's going to want to know, when do you think charges are going to be filed?
This is the highest priority of any case in the Tulsa County DA's office. We will look at it, but we won't make a decision until we're sure we've vetted all the facts and evidence that law enforcement has been able to uncover. I would say this community will not be defined by the treacherous, evil crimes of 2 individuals. That's not what Tulsa, Oklahoma is about, and that's not what our people are about. The fact that this community drew together as one to stop this threat is what Tulsa is all about. I also would like to say the task force put together by the Tulsa Police Department, the Warrant Squad, the FBI, and the Tulsa County Sheriff's Office just shows you the collaborative nature of the law enforcement expertise that we have in Tulsa. I am so grateful for this community's response and for the ability of law enforcement to bring these people, take the threat away from the public, and now the prosecution begins.
Are you under any deadline to press charges? Is there a...
No, we'll have until the date of the arraignment of 4/16. Certainly we will move this up. Like I said, this is the highest priority for the Tulsa County DA's office. As soon as we believe we've reviewed all the evidence that sufficiently can be presented, a formal charge will be levied.
Mr. Harris, given the, as you described it, unprecedented nature of the case, what are your primary concerns going forward with this case?
Certainly the evidence. Right? Every prosecutorial decision rises and falls on the evidence. So certainly there's been some intimations of some things that we will review in the media There's lots more that would be revealed by law enforcement at the appropriate time. That totality of all the evidence will be considered for us to be able to make a formal charging decision.
You're talking about the Facebook, the
Yes.
social media postings?
Yes.
How significant is that?
Well, it's all significant. Okay? Every piece of evidence will be weighed, will be reviewed, will be compared and overlaid with the laws of the state of Oklahoma, the constitutional rights that every criminal defendant face. Due process will be meted out at the appropriate time. Appropriate charges will be leveled against these two individuals.
Can you remember another case like this?
No.
Do they have attorneys?
Not yet. I have spoken to the public defender's office and determined we will work together between our office and their office to make sure that there isn't a possible conflict of interest, but I'm sure that's being considered. So to move this as quickly as possible to obtain due process, that will be reviewed.
How will this change if it is a hate crime?
It won't change it at all, okay? It's just one more aspect, one more charge, and one more piece of evidence that has to be determined whether the elements of a hate crime can be meted out and supported by the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt.
Can you explain the hate crime process for people who are not in the state of Oklahoma?
Well, under Oklahoma law, if you have committed an assault and battery, or in the alternative that you have publicly made statements that are designed to incite violence based on race, gender, nationality, origin, any of those protected statuses, if it was motivated by any of those background motivational variables, then under Oklahoma law you can consider filing a hate crime.
And if you were to be able to do that, why would that be important to you to do it?
Well, because if the motivation is racial in this case, then that needs to be vetted in a court of law just like any others. It's the law of the state of Oklahoma, and if the facts and the evidence support that, then we're going to go forward with it, because this isn't hide the ball. This is presenting the evidence. If we can figure out what the motivation was behind these killings and it sufficiently meets the elements of hate crime, then we'll file a hate crime. If it doesn't, we'll look at the evidence and we'll file what can be supported by the evidence.
Is that important to you personally, and if so, why? When you talk about hate crimes.
Hey, I took an oath to this community. This is a very important issue. We will look at it and it will be vetted out appropriately. Certainly, I've been a prosecutor 27 years. This is important for this community, for the victims and families that have suffered so atrociously, and we will seek accountability, we will seek justice, and we will seek punishment for this kind of treachery and evil in our community.